And they calculate the probability of the evolution of the human genome to be somewhere between 4 to the negative 180th power to the 110,000th power and 4 to the negative 360th power to the 110,000th power. So if evolution did occur on this planet, it was literally a miracle.
Is this fine-tuning, or is it extremely random, capricious, cruel, mysterious, and incompetent?
In a recent video on this channel, we featured Christopher Hitchens and other influential atheists saying that the fine-tuning of the universe was the best evidence for God, but that there were strong counter-arguments that explain fine-tuning that do not require any deity. So in this video, we're going to feature Christopher Hitchens, former atheist, and his counterpoints at the time of this debate, where he says, here is the problems with seeing fine-tuning as an evidence for God. Let's begin.
We don't know about the origins of the universe. We're viewing it from an unimaginable distance, not just an unimaginable distance in space. We're perched on a tiny rock in an extremely small suburb of a fairly minor galaxy, trying to look to discern our origins, but also at an unbelievable distance in time. And we claim the right to say, we can see the finger of God in this process. It's an extraordinarily arrogant assumption. It either deserves a Nobel Prize in physics, which it hasn't yet got, I notice. I don't know any physicist who believes these assumptions are necessary, or it deserves a charge of hubris. Let me make 3 tiny, quick objections to it as it stands, and I'm no more a physicist than most of you are. I'll make these lay objections. 1, was there pre-existing material for this extra spatio-temporal being to work with? Or did he just will it into existence, the ex nihilo? Who designed the designer? Don't you run the risk with the presumption of a God and a designer and an originator of asking, well, where does that come from, where does that come from, and locking yourself into an infinite regress? Why are there so many shooting stars, collapsed suns, failed galaxies? We can see with the aid of a telescope, sometimes we can see with the naked eye. The utter failure, the total destruction of gigantic, unimaginable sweeps of outer space. Is this fine-tuning, or is it extremely random, capricious, cruel, mysterious, and incompetent? And have you thought of the nothingness that's coming? We know we have something now, and we speculate about what it might have come from, and there's a real question about ex nihilo, but nihilo is coming to us. In the night sky, you can already see the Andromeda Galaxy. It's heading straight for ours on a collision course. Is that part of a design? Was it fine-tuned to do that? We know that from the red light shift of the Hubble telescope, or rather Edwin Hubble's original discovery, the universe is expanding away from itself at a tremendous rate. It was thought that rate would go down for Newtonian reasons. No, it's recently been proved by Professor Lawrence Krauss, the rate of expansion is increasing. Everything is exploding away even faster. Nothingness is certainly coming. Who designed that? And that's all if before these things happen, we don't have the destruction of our own little solar system, in which already there's only one planet where anything like life can possibly be supported. All the other planets are too hot or too cold to support any life at all, and the sun is due to swell up, burn us to a crisp, boil our oceans and die, as we've seen all the other suns do in the night sky. This is not fine-tuning, ladies and gentlemen, and if it's the work of a designer, then there's an indictment to which that designer may have to be subjected. I'm out of time. I'm very grateful for your kindness and hospitality.
First, we're going to feature a portion of Dr. William Lane Craig responding to these objections, and I'm going to feature a portion of a lecture I recorded several years ago that highlights exactly what Hitchens and those like him miss. So with that being said, let's get into it.
Barrow and Tipler, 2 physicists, in their book, The Anthropic Cosmological Principle, list 10 steps in the course of human evolution, each of which is so improbable that before it would occur, the sun would have ceased to be a main sequence star and incinerated the Earth. And they calculate the probability of the evolution of the human genome to be somewhere between 4 to the negative 180th power to the 110,000th power and 4 to the negative 360th power to the 110,000th power. So if evolution did occur on this planet, it was literally a miracle and therefore evidence for the existence of God. So I don't think this is an argument for atheism. Quite the contrary. It really provides good grounds for thinking that God superintended the process of biological development. So the Christian can be open to the evidence to follow it where it leads. By contrast, as Alvin Plantinga has said, for the naturalist, evolution is the only game in town. No matter how fantastic the odds, no matter how improbable, it's got to be true, because there is no intelligent creator and designer. So in one sense, you've got to feel a little sorry for the atheist. He can't really follow the evidence where it leads. His presuppositions determine the outcome. By contrast, if there is a fine-tuner and creator of the universe, then already in the initial conditions of the Big Bang, you have an elaborately designed universe that permits the evolution and existence of intelligent life. And I think evolution simply layers on more improbability. Now, Mr. Hitchens says, but why did God wait so long, all that waste during this time? Well, that sort of concern with efficiency is only of importance to someone with either limited time or limited resources, or both. But in the case of God, he has both unlimited resources and unlimited time, and therefore it's simply not important to do this in a quick way. Now, with respect to my cosmological argument, notice that he didn't dispute whatever begins to exist has a cause, nor did he dispute the philosophical and scientific arguments for the beginning of the universe. All he asked was the question, was there pre-existent material? The answer is no, there was not. As Barrow and Tipler point out, at this singularity, space and time came into existence. Literally nothing existed before the singularity. So if the universe originated at such a singularity, we would truly have a creation ex nihilo, that is, out of nothing. And this isn't talking religion, folks. This is talking contemporary cosmology. So the first argument, it seems to me, is unrefuted. What about the fine-tuning argument? Here he said, well, scientists are terribly uncertain about the fine-tuning argument. Well, I think that's simply not the case. Sir Martin Rees, the Royal Astronomer Royal of Great Britain, has said, the laws governing our universe appear to be finely tuned for our existence. Everywhere you look, there are yet more examples. Wherever physicists look, they see examples of fine-tuning. Ernan McMullen, philosopher of science, says it seems safe to say that later theory, no matter how different it may be, will turn up approximately the same numbers. And the numerous constraints that have to be imposed on these numbers seem both too specific and too numerous to evaporate entirely. So that it's very unlikely that this fine-tuning is going to vanish or be explained away. Now, Mr. Hitchens responds, but we're headed toward nothingness. We're ultimately going to be doomed, and therefore the universe is not designed. Well, now, this is not a very powerful objection. The temporal duration of something is irrelevant to whether it's been designed. The products of human intelligence and engineering, like computers and automobiles, will eventually decay and cease to exist, but that doesn't mean they weren't designed. I think the real objection he's getting at here is, why would God create mankind only to have it go extinct? But of course, you see, on the Christian view, that's false. That is an atheistic assumption. On the Christian view, life does not end at the grave, and God has given assurance of this by raising Jesus from the dead. So the objection simply has no purchase against Christian theism. So it seems to me that the fine-tuning argument is also unrefuted.
If you're going to say, because the universe is the way that it is, therefore not God, what you're really saying, let's just be clear, is that you're certain that God doesn't know anything that you don't know. That's what you're really saying. You're certain that God doesn't know something that you don't know, that he doesn't have reasons that you don't know, that basically you're really saying his assessment of what makes life worth it is wrong. Because there's decay, because there's some evil and suffering going on, you're certain that his assessment of the good that is being gathered is not worth it. And I just think, you're fair to say that you have free will, but I just think that that's an extremely, extremely audacious and prideful thing to say when, again, you're comparing your assessment versus the assessment of the person who gave you your ability to assess. I just think that that's Pretty wild. But now Dr. Ross will unpack this again, sort of why the universe is the way that it is, particularly in light of the decay and some of the things that Christopher Hitchens brought up that don't seem to be the handiwork of God, but not so fast. Watch this.
Let me give you a quick overview of what I would refer to as the two creation model. I think you'll see why only this biblical two creation model offers a satisfactory answer to why there presently is evil and suffering in the world. Now, even before number one, and this is something I'll talk about tomorrow evening, how there are passages in the Bible that tell us God begins his works of redemption before he creates anything, which implies that everything that God creates is for the purpose of redemption. That's my message of tomorrow evening. But following God's working out this plan of redemption and initiating his works of redemption, he creates our universe of matter, energy, space, and time. And then very carefully designs and fine-tunes the universe and the earth for the entry of us human beings. And he places Adam and Eve in Eden, in this idyllic paradise in the Garden of Eden. But here's something you see in the text. Now that we got Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, God opens a gate to the Garden of Eden and invites into the garden Satan. Who is Satan? First of all, Satan's the first sinner. Adam's not the first sinner. Satan's the first sinner. And Satan, we're told, is the most powerful being that God created. He's the most intelligent, the wisest, the most powerful. And God has him come into the Garden of Eden. Keep in mind, God had the option of keeping Satan away from humanity for the rest of eternity. God did not choose that option. He recognized that by bringing Satan in the Garden of Eden, we human beings would be exposed to the greatest challenge in the context of evil. Now let me give you an analogy. Gary and I both have PhD degrees. You know what that PhD means? It's a guarantee that neither one of us will ever have to be tested for our competency in our specific disciplines, based on the idea that you and I have already been subjected to the most difficult tests possible in the context of our disciplines, so it's pointless to test us again. And so we get that guarantee. Well, likewise, God is providing us with a guarantee by exposing us to the most difficult challenge in the context of evil. If we can pass that challenge, nothing can ever encourage us to use our free will for evil intent for the rest of eternity. We will have passed the most difficult tests. Now let me tell you a story. When I came to the University of Toronto as a freshman graduate student, there were 13 of us in the freshman class. And the professors in the astronomy department sat us down. And they said, "You 13 are the cream of the crop. We know you're all intelligent. We know you're all prepared to work very hard, otherwise you would have never gotten in here. We here on the professorial staff are here to help you and to assist you. But we guarantee that the program we're taking you through is way too challenging for you to pass it without our help. If you refuse our help, you will not get the PhD. We're here, we're available, please come to us." Okay, of the 13 of us, only 6 of us got the PhD. 2 of my peers wound up spending more than a year in the mental hospital. In fact, what's interesting, they had the 16-story physics and astronomy tower where we all worked. Right next door was a 12-story mental hospital. And we felt we needed corridors between the 2 buildings at different levels because of how many in the astronomy and physics department wound up spending time there.
It happened in the history department too.
Well, some of my professors were in there as well, so quite the place. But the whole point is this. My professors said they were available to help, but they did not give me a guarantee that if I took their help, I would pass. Because some of my peers did take their help and still did not pass. God gives us a guarantee. He basically tells us, you can't pass this test by yourself. Satan is way more powerful than you are. But if you come to me for help, I guarantee you will pass this most difficult test. And that's an offer he makes to all human beings. So he explains why God invited Satan into the Garden of Eden. And it's God himself who conquers evil on the cross. And then he brings his redemptive offer to all the people groups of the world. And then there reaches a point, as it says in Romans 8, when the full number of humans that God intends to redeem will be redeemed. And when that happens, God permanently eradicates evil and places redeemed humans in their new home, not this universe, but a brand new creation, where we humans will rule with Christ over the angels. You say, why over the angels? The angels watch the grace of God in operation in those of us who are followers of Jesus Christ. We who are followers experience the grace of God. And it's because of that special training, a time will come when we'll be rulers and judges and teachers over the angels, but also over everything else God chooses to create in the new creation. And there's actually a hint of that in Revelation 21. And what does it say about our blessed home in the future? I am making everything new. It's going to be nothing like this creation. We're told that the new creation begins immediately after the removal of evil. It's not the paradise of the Garden of Eden. It's way better than the Garden of Eden. Otherwise, why would God bring Satan? If that was the ultimate, there's no reason to bring Satan in there. But God is promising something far better. Because our parents in the Garden of Eden lacked something that we who are followers of Jesus Christ presently possess. We possess eternal security. They did not possess eternal security. The first creation is removed. As God spoke the universe into existence, a time will come when he will speak it out of existence. And several passages describe exactly how that will happen. And some of my cosmologist friends think they've actually found the model that's consistent with those biblical texts of God removing the universe. It's going to be a much bigger place than this planet Earth. I mean, this planet Earth, after all, is way too small to house the number of humans that God intends to redeem. It's going to be a place where nothing decays. It tells us that explicitly in Revelation 21. No decay. What does that mean? It means everything you create will need zero maintenance. I mean, everything we create in this world because of thermodynamics, at least for every 2 hours I spend creating, an hour has to go to maintaining what I create. There won't be any need to invest that hour in the new creation. It's a place where nothing dies. No death, no disease, no disabilities, no injuries. It's a place where there's no gravity and no electromagnetism. Say, how do you know that? It talks about this building, 1,500 miles on each side with corners. That violates the law of gravity. There's a reason why all cosmic bodies bigger than 300 kilometers across are spherical in shape. Gravity forces those spherical shapes. And yet we have something described in Revelation 21 that's much bigger than that. It also tells the new creation, no shadows, no darkness, no stars, no sun, because everything will emanate with light. That's not electromagnetism. It's a completely different kind of light. And it's a place where there's no grief, no remorse. I don't have time to go into that. There's reasons why we will not even have grief or remorse over those human beings that choose to spend eternity away from God. It's not going to be length, width, height, and time. It's going to be completely different dimensions. It may not even be space-time dimensions, but we do know there are dimensions. There's an angel with a measuring rod. It's a place of unimaginable joy, beauty, and peace, unimaginable reward and splendor. We're told none of us can possibly think or imagine how great the reward, the beauty, and splendor will be. It's a place of continual fellowship with God. It'll be a place of very fulfilling, purposeful careers, not just for a few decades, but for all eternity. You're going to be fulfilled in your career. Relationship limits will be limited, and our free will capacity will be expanded. Let me just finish this little description with a story of what happened when I signed my name in the back of a Gideon Bible, giving my life to Jesus Christ. I began to imagine life in the new creation and just saying, wouldn't it be incredible? I mean, we just heard Gary talk about these amazing apostles that we see in the New Testament. Don't you yearn to have a private afternoon office appointment with John, with Paul, with David, with Moses, and all the other heroes we see in the text. And I began to calculate the minimum number of redeemed human beings that will be there in the new creation. It exceeds about 35 billion human beings. That's conservative. It could be more. Okay. And I said, my name is Ross. I'm towards the end of the alphabet. If I try to get on the Apostle Paul's appointment calendar, I'm going to be waiting a really, really long time. In fact, I actually calculated how many tens of millions of years I'd have to wait before a 2-hour slot opens up on the Apostle Paul's appointment calendar. However, what I read in Revelation 21, we will be one as the Father and Son are one. There will be no marriages in the new creation. I discussed this with my wife. And I made the point, I think God's going to deliver us into geometric time in the new creation. We'll no longer be constrained to one dimension of time because there will no longer be the evil that requires us to be constrained to linear time. And if we're in geometric time, I'll be able to spend eternity with my wife where we're never apart from one another, just side by side for the rest of eternity. But that will not limit me from having a similar relationship with every other human being, an angel, and God himself in the new creation. And my friend, our philosopher on staff, Ken Sample, said, Hugh, I'm not so happy about this. I need my cave time where I'm all by myself. And I said, well, in geometric time, you can have a whole dimension of time where you're all by yourself for all of eternity, but simultaneously you can be having these intimate, eternal relationships with every other being in the new creation. He says, oh, okay, I think I can handle that part. But this leaves us with life's greatest question. A question you see in the book of Hebrews, chapter 12, or chapter 2, verse 3. How shall we escape if we ignore such a great salvation? And here's what I'm suggesting. One reason why non-Christians that we engage will often just dismiss our presentation of what we're offering through Jesus Christ, they don't recognize the magnitude of what Christ suffered for them on the cross. That's another whole talk. But they also don't recognize the magnitude of what's being offered to them in the new creation. Now, the Apostle Paul said, no eye has seen, nor ear has heard, no mind has conceived what God has prepared for those who love him. But as the same Apostle Paul has said, every day, spend some time meditating on your future reward and encourage one another with what you come up with. Yes, it's impossible to imagine how great and wonderful it'll be, but do your best to try. And whatever you come up with, realize God's offering something even better than that. And share that with one another. It will help you live a righteous life here and now and get ready for your future careers in the new creation.
All right, love Dr. Ross. Here's the quote. It's from, again, Brothers Karamazov, and this is what it says. Let me make it plain. I believe, like a child, that suffering will be healed and made up for, that all the humiliating absurdity of human contradictions will vanish like a pitiful mirage, like the despicable fabrication of the impotent and infinitely small Euclidean mind of man, that in the world's finale, at the moment of eternal harmony, something so precious will come to pass that it will suffice for all our hearts, for the comforting of all resentments, for the atonement of all crimes of humanity, of all the blood they've shed. It will all make it not only possible to forgive, but to justify all that has happened with men. There is, again, an eternal upside that outweighs the temporal downside that we're all looking at and saying, man, things are not the way that they should be. We all feel that. The world is broken. We all feel that. But isn't that intuition itself an indication of something far greater than many of us are willing to acknowledge? So I think I will leave you guys with that thought for this video, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.
If you enjoyed this conversation, you might also enjoy the Wisdom Society, a growing community of believers from around the world that meets weekly to discuss tough questions, to read scripture, and to pray. Within the Wisdom Society, there is also a book club where members are joined by the author of the book so that they can discuss the book directly with the author. Join today, support this channel, invest in yourself, grow in faith, connect with believers from around the world. Click the link in the description to find out more.